Afternoon, everybody. We will start with a broadcast section with no embargo, followed by an embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. No live tweeting during the broadcast section, please, and use the microphone provided. Paul.
Thank you. Hi, Ange. I was going to start with team news. Any fresh injury concerns, and in particular, Danzo, Kulusevski and Richarlison, their status, please?
No, nothing in terms of new outside those ones. Everyone else is fine training. Obviously, Road is the other long-term one. Richie's training, probably not tomorrow, but chance for the weekend if he keeps training with the first team as he has been. It's getting better. Decky and Kevin probably progressing well, probably a week or two with them. Again, haven't joined in team training yet, but progressing well.
How do you find the balance between obviously the league position, but you face a rival in Chelsea that's quite a special fixture for the supporters maybe, but also kind of one eye on Southampton game at the weekend and then the big one against Frankfurt next week?
Yeah, I think you just got to sort of, like you said, there's an important game tomorrow night. I don't think you kind of can go past that it's an important fixture. It's an important fixture for the fans, it's an important fixture for our season. But even if you're sort of focusing on the other games, I think it's always better that you try and gain some momentum in terms of form and performance, leading into big games. So tomorrow's that opportunity.
And just a general one, it's now been announced that semi-automated offside is coming in from next weekend, the 12th of April. What do you make of, first, the technology and also the timing?
I don't have a massive sort of view on it. I guess if it happens quicker than what it currently does and is more accurate, because I've never felt really comfortable with those lines, the accuracy of those lines, then I guess it's a positive. I'd still like the assistants to make the decision so we don't have to wait around, but apparently it's an improvement in terms of timing and accuracy, so hopefully it works well. Thanks, Paul.
Christian Romero's not played a lot of football in recent weeks and months, so I wondered how you reacted to him playing 180 minutes in 4 days with Argentina. Is that helpful for the rest of your season, or would you rather he wasn't quite so exerted?
I was delighted, mate, if he can get through 2 games with his national team. I think it's great for us. As you rightly mentioned, he hasn't played a lot of football, and footballers need to play. So rather than him sort of sitting around for 2 weeks, he needed games. I think you could see that even with the performances he had with us before. He, especially the Fulham game, by the 70th minute, he was pretty much cooked in terms of his physical fitness. So, again, through 2 games, international level, 2 tough games, I think is a positive.
When you played Chelsea last time, they were being touted as possible title candidates, and results haven't really been that way for them since. But at home, they seem pretty strong. What have you made of their form and performances recently?
Yeah, as you said, they're a talented squad, a good manager. I still think they've had a positive season in terms of what they're trying to build. They've got some real talent, particularly in that attacking third. They obviously got hit by injuries as well. They've got some key players who have been missing, which affects all clubs, and that affected their consistency of results. But as you said, at their place, they're still a tough team to beat, so a good challenge for us.
You mentioned it being an important game for fans. Spurs fans have been scarred for 30, nearly 40 years with this fixture, never really gone their way. I wondered, with fan base being scarred, disappointed regularly, even pessimistic going into this one, do you notice any different air when you have casual conversations in the canteen here, in the corridors? Is there anything different in the build-up when you're going up against Chelsea here?
Try and separate what you just said there. We're not talking about the fans. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the next challenge, which is obviously Chelsea, and we understand the significance of the fixture. We understand, as I said, they're a good side. They're particularly at home. They're a tough team to beat. So we're going to have to perform at our best to overcome them. But that's a great challenge for us. As I said, we need to sort of try and build some momentum into the rest of the season and finish in a positive way. And going to Chelsea, we know we're going to have to play well to beat them. Thanks.
And pass down to Rob, please.
Hi, Ange. How beneficial has this past week been for you on the training pitch? I mean, you've virtually had all the players available ahead of a really tough run of fixtures.
Yeah, no, it's been a good sort of international break. A bit unusual not having a game on the weekend, which kind of worked well for us because the majority of our international players played. So we were able to give them a sort of couple of days to recover post their internationals instead of just flying straight back, which I think was good for them. The guys here worked really hard, but again, we could give them some time off within that context. And the whole sort of group got together at the beginning of the week, and I think they're all in a good place mentally and physically. I think it was positive in that guys who probably needed to play some football did so. Guys who maybe needed a bit of a breather also got that opportunity.
How's Lucas feeling? Because, I mean, he was in line to start his first game for Sweden.
Yeah, disappointing for him. He sort of copped a virus pretty much first day. He got there and knocked him about. They held him sort of around for hoping to play in the second game, but in the end they just thought, because he hadn't trained at all, it was just better off here. So he came back to us, probably had a day off, and then has trained fully since, so he's okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, mate.
Pastor James, please.
Hi, Ange. I was watching the Optus interview you did the other day. You were talking about you felt in hindsight you'd have taken a different approach to the start of the season. And I just wanted to get you to elaborate on that a little bit. What did you mean in terms of pre-season training or team selection early on? Or
I thought it was pretty clear, mate. Maybe just listen to the interview again. I don't think there's anything else I need to expand on. Like I said, you kind of review things along the way. We'll probably review things probably at the end of the year, but my sense is that, we obviously had a lot of players who missed a lot of our pre-season, and we kind of went into the season probably a little bit underdone in terms of some of our key players, and I think we paid a price for that. And, I think, this pre-season might look a little bit different because we won't have as many international commitments as last year, but like I said in the interview, I think it's just stuff we'll review and try and adjust so that sort of pre-season, which I think is important for every sort of club, but particularly for us from a physical perspective, we try and get right this year.
and during the international break, Mauricio Pochettino has been talking again about wanting to manage Spurs one day in the future. I just wonder what you made of him going public with that at a time when you're under a bit of pressure here, and also you're going into a defining part of the season.
Mauricio, if he wants to come back one day, I hope it happens for him. I mean, we all have dreams and aspirations. If that's what he wants, then that's. I don't think he was. I mean, you're suggesting that he's trying to put pressure on me.
Well, the timing of it felt to me a bit disrespectful to you. That was all.
Oh, well, I don't feel disrespected. I think if you ask Mauricio that question directly, I think you'd get a pretty clear answer as to what his intent was. But again, nothing for me to sort of be consumed with. More focused on sort of making sure we try and win tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Jay, behind you, please. Thank you.
Hi, Ange. I just want to ask you about Christian Romero's future. He's got 2 years left on his contract in the summer. I think there are a few links during the international break with other teams. So, yeah, how do you see that?
He's got a game tomorrow night, mate. That's what we're focused on.
And then I think this could be the first league game since Chelsea at home in December that Mickey and Christian could start together. How much has their absence impacted the team this season? Yeah,
like any key players who missed games, it's great to have them back, and hopefully they're able to contribute to us tomorrow night.
You said after the Fulham game that Basuma can sometimes let the game drifting by. Just wonder, how do you address that with him before the end of the season?
Same way as every other player, mate. We just work with the players, give them the feedback, and give them the opportunity to work their way back to being the best they can be.
Finish with George, please.
And earlier in the season, you had some very good away results and wins. Over the recent months, been some poor performances and results, and there've been a couple of flashpoints at times. Yourself with the fans at Bournemouth and some of the players at Alkmaar. How kind of important is tomorrow, obviously, not just to get a result, but to kind of try and unify the fans ahead of what feels like a really important 2-week period for the club with the Europa League quarter-final?
Yeah, well, I just don't think you can get caught up with that. Our job, our role is, and our responsibility is to try and put in a strong performance tomorrow to win. That's it. You can't get consumed by, too many things that really are out of your control. They're out of our control, how other people feel. What we can do is, like I said, perform against a tough opponent tomorrow and try and gain some momentum leading into an important part of the season for us. So that's where kind of our focus and the players' focus has been.
I guess with tomorrow, is it a good dress rehearsal for Frankfurt in 2 weeks? Because it's a difficult away game. It's going to be loud. Players are going to be under pressure, and it's a chance to come through that. And they'll obviously have to do the same in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different because, I think European competition and sort of knockout competition, it tends to be a little bit more cagey. But like you said, there's some elements there of playing away from home, against a sort of loud fan base and against a quality opponent where, certainly, if we can come through that test, then that gives you confidence about what's ahead.
And I guess just finally, from your own point of view, James asked about Pochettino's quotes. There's been a lot of talk about your own future during the last 2.5 weeks. How do you kind of deal with that as a manager and as a human being, knowing that kind of cycle is being spoken about?
I don't deal with it, mate. I mean, like I said, I know what my responsibilities are. I'm sure if the club decide to go in a different direction, there's some outstanding candidates out there for it. So, and you know what? Maybe somebody will think, Ange Postecoglou's not a bad coach. Maybe we'll take a punt on him. So, mate, it doesn't rock my world. It doesn't consume me. I'm here. I'm passionate about what we're doing. I was brought in to change the way the club plays, rejuvenate the squad, bring success. I'm focused on that, and that's what I'll keep doing. Thanks, bud.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there. Move on to the Embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Dan.
The two Chelsea home games in particular, last season and this year, kind of how much you feel that those games derailed both the seasons, really, given the kind of injuries that happened in each of them? Yeah,
bizarre games. We kind of, as a natural course of events, you always review when you're playing an opponent some of the past games. But both bizarre because in the first half hour of both those games we were unbelievable, as good as we've been, and then kind of things just fell apart. But that happens in football sometimes. And again, that's stuff you can't control. There's some learnings there, but there's also some understanding that when we are playing at our best, we're a pretty compelling team against anybody, and we saw that in those games. Like I said, particularly here at home. So, but I think it's a different challenge away from home. Playing Chelsea, I think anyone who plays, it's a tighter ground. It tends to not be too sort of open in terms of the football. So I think it'll be a different game. It'll require different things from us.
That home game is the last time Romero and Van der Ven started together in the league. I mean, you will be aware that there's been a lot of debate about the decision to play them. Given the kind of distance passed, I guess. I mean, can you talk in a bit of detail about kind of the build-up to that game and kind of what prompted you to put them in?
Well, what prompted me to put them in was that Romero's coming back from a knock on his toe, but he was fit. And Mickey, obviously, with his hamstring, he'd passed all the tests. He'd done everything, and everyone felt like he was ready to go. There was some other context around that. We'd lost a couple of other centre halves, and it kind of unravelled. I know going into the game, I was, my main concern was Mickey. I wasn't really concerned about Christian, but then you lose Christian with an unrelated injury, and then sort of puts more pressure on Mickey, and then Mickey gets injured. So, in hindsight, Mr. Hindsight, I would have not played either of them, and they would have got injured the next game, mate. It's just the way football works, There's no precise. Like I said, I think with those kind of things, I think it's better you take a sort of a step back and look at it from an overall perspective rather than pinpoint in time. And that's what I was kind of saying beforehand about, looking at how we went into the season. Guys, especially Romero, hardly did any pre-season with us, and was it wise to play him from the first game? Is it something that we need to look at? Guys who don't do pre-season, I've done it before in my career where you kind of, wait till they're ready to go. So, but I think that's all for the end of the year.
Matt?
I was coming to that actually, Ange, and hello.
No, man.
going too hard at the start of the season. Are you talking about pre-season there, or?
No, just in terms of, you know, I think at the start of the season, knowing what kind of pre-season we'd had in that was really disruptive in terms of the amount of players who weren't part of it for an extended period of time. I think we just went into the league season, and then, you know, obviously we had Europe coming in as well, and then, you know, we got a decent run in the Carabao Cup that, in retrospect, we probably, like I said, should have, or I should have sort of looked at it from a different perspective of when do we introduce players into the first team to really sort of, you know, drive into our season.
Does that have an impact on what you do in pre-season? I'm asking because you know you're off to play Arsenal in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I don't think it's actual the pre-season break. It's who's involved in it more than anything else. Like I said, last year we had a lot of players with international duty who came back pretty late in the piece. So I guess what I'm trying to sort of explain is that, you know, I think players need a good 2 to 3 week block of training before they play, you know, so if that means somebody comes in the last week of pre-season, rather than sort of us putting them in the first team, is give them that block and make them available selection after we really think they've had a decent hit out. So it's not the actual design of pre-season. I think this year, what we've done so far, I think it's looking like, from a games program and the trips we need to do, I think it's a pretty decent program we've got.
And is that something that players have to learn then, because they come in and want to play again?
Yeah, but we're in charge of that. We've got to be the ones that kind of dictate that. Of course, like you said, and I don't think there's any player that wants to do pre-season. If they could all avoid it, they would. So it's something we've got to, you know, I think with the way football's going, and it's gone in recent times, I've said it a lot, the volume of games that players are playing, plus the fact that they're not really getting the traditional summer break they always had, I think you've got to start thinking about, and like I said, I've done it in the past, that you kind of tailor it a little bit more individually now, rather than say, you know what, we do our pre-season on the first day, everyone's ready to go. I just don't think that world exists.
Charlie?
You mentioned earlier about, you know, a slightly extended window for some teams that didn't play at the weekend. Do you think for some clubs it's quite a handy reset, that extra time, and the opposite to that for some teams who had momentum? Is it quite a bad thing?
Yeah, it just depends. Again, like, we've got a lot of players, like a lot of clubs, I guess, who it's not just the international commitments they have, it's the travel. Like Sonny, you know, goes half around the world to South American boys, and usually we'd be lucky to get them back before Friday. And, you know, if you're playing on Sunday, some clubs play Saturday, it takes a toll on those guys. So having that weekend off, actually, I think most clubs would have, the ones who had it off would say it's been beneficial for them, because the normal load that international players would have, it gives them that extra couple of days to kind of have a normal week leading into a game. So I think there wouldn't be many clubs who wouldn't find it beneficial, I think.
When you spoke to the players, when they all got back together again, did you sort of talk to them about sort of sectioning off this last bit of the season, or in terms of a general chat, or did you just talk to them about the game you've got tomorrow?
A little bit of both. I think we kind of know now that, you know, there's 9 league games, hopefully 5 in Europa, so you've got about 14 games, you know, 53 days together, so you've got to clear with no interruption, so you've got a clear sort of plan there of, you know, what we can do, and but you've got to chip away at it game by game, and it starts tomorrow night.
John.
Hello.
Hey, John.
I was just going to ask you, because you've got perspective across different frontiers of the club and international and different things. Have you got a solution in your head, or ideas in your head about how the calendar could be fixed? I don't know whether that means a 4-week holiday window set in stone, or a cap on number of games or minutes.
Yeah, I think it'll get to a point where it's got to be a combination of that. I definitely think that players need a certain amount of time for their bodies to recover at the end of the year. Now, most players these days, it's not like they go and sit on the beach. Most of them are pretty smart. They look after themselves. But I think having a minimum days where they have zero contact with football, I think is important. And then it's the amount of games. I mean, I think I might have mentioned it in that interview I did. I think this is probably the only league where you've got this amount of teams, 3 cup competitions, no winter break, and no sort of rest weekends before European fixtures. It's the only league that does it. So either we're smarter than everyone else, or maybe there's something in what others are doing. So I think there needs to be a time where everyone sort of sits together, and I know it's going to hit revenues, which is what everyone sort of, and the players are part of that because they're beneficiaries of those revenues. But we're going to get to, like I said, a point where either you're going to sort of get rid of squad limits and clubs are going to have 40 players on their books to cope with it, or you're going to get what you're getting at the moment. And you see it every game. You watch last night, players are getting injured, going down, getting injured. And it's going to become more prevalent, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just you, Spurs.
No.
Across the league.
No, that's what I'm saying.
The tendon injuries, for example.
Yeah. And invariably it's hitting clubs in European competition more, which is understandable, or clubs who have extended sort of cup runs, or have a lot of international players. So, yeah, and I think it's not like it's... we've had 2 more European games this year, so it's not like it's decreasing, it's going the other way. So the demands of international football, of continental football, are increasing. So at some point something has to give. I think if we want the product to remain, and we want to look after the most important participants who are the players.
Okay, Tom, and then finish with Jacob, please.
And for all the noise around kind of other things, it does feel like players are back, not just fit, but also now kind of sharper, having played some games of international break. I mean, have you had to kind of remind the players actually there's a serious upside to this last kind of running?
No, I haven't had to remind them. I think, again, internally, I think I've said before that they've felt that. I mean, the injured players have been really frustrated that they just haven't been able to help, and you've seen that. They understand what a tough year it's been for everybody, but particularly those players who've had to sort of carry the load. And it's the worst thing when you can't help your team. Apart from, obviously as individuals, they don't like being injured, but they just haven't been able to contribute. And as they've trickled back, that you can sense that their enthusiasm and their sort of energy is now transferring to the guys who've had to sort of go through that period. And so, the one thing I do sense is the players are kind of excited by the prospect of, we're here now, whatever we've been through, but we've still got an opportunity to do something special this year. So let's tackle that and tackle that in the manner of we tried to do everything we've done so far, and playing our football and having a real positive mindset about things.
Because it's actually quite a rare opportunity for a side like Spurs, I think, to have, you wouldn't say a singular focus on Europa League, but to have that kind of tunnel vision where you can achieve something in one competition.
Yeah, I mean, we've earned the right to that. We've got to the quarterfinals the same way we got to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup because of performances through the tough period. And we had to do that, get to this point with some very difficult moments, and with a lot of young players being asked to do not just young first-team players, but young players from our academy to get us to this point. So, I think the players have deserved to be in this position to have a crack at achieving something.
Are you thinking you might be back to the first leg or second leg?
Not the first leg. I'm sure he'll be pushing for the second leg, but like I said, he's out of the boot, which is the main thing. That was the first hurdle. Now he's kind of out there training, so it's just going to be how he progresses. But we're talking a couple of weeks, so definitely not the first leg, but chance for the second.
Jacob, to finish, please.
The atmosphere at Stamford Bridge in the last few months has been pretty restless. I mean, it seems like the fans there don't really engage with Enzo Maresca's style of play. He's talked in the last few weeks about struggling against teams who don't really come obviously you're a team with an attacking reputation, but for this occasion, do you always look to play on that kind of tension that's there, go in the opposite direction, and just kind of ultimately make it quite boring to frustrate them?
No, mate. Sorry to disappoint. No, we'll go there and have a crack and see. Hopefully, it'll be a good game, and hopefully, we come out on top. I think every club's kind of on its own journey, and I said I was brought here for a specific reason, a couple of specific reasons. One was to change the way the club plays. It's football. I said rejuvenate the squad and bring some success, and we're well and truly on that road, and we'll stay on that road till those things happen. Good.
Okay, thank you.